and welcome. You're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyi has received U.S. President Donald Trump's invitation to pay an official visit to Washington. The visit may take place in late August or early September. So what should Ukrainians expect from this meeting? To talk more about this, we're joined in the studio today by Maksym Iali. He's an expert on international relations and senior research fellow at the Institute of World History of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. So hello and thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
As I have already just mentioned, Zelensky has received an official invitation from the White House to come and have a meeting with Donald Trump. And some experts have already voiced their opinions about what this meeting is going to be all about, that it's going to be a full-scale official meeting, an official acquaintance between two leaders of the countries, and that there is going to be an official side of the meeting and unofficial.
Exactly.
So we'll touch upon both of those sides, and first we'll start with the official side. What are going to be the main issues discussed during the official side of the meeting?
Well, I guess, first of all, the most important, I would say, issue of the meeting will be, of course, Russian-Ukrainian military conflict and how to finish it, to stop it, to implement Minsk agreements. And we should also take into account that it has already been mentioned, yes, in U.S. press that before meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyi, President Trump is going to meet Vladimir Putin.
Again, we've had this situation before. Now, this is a controversial situation once again, since we don't know an official position of Volodymyr Zelenskyi according to about Russia, in fact, being an aggressor country or not. So,
well, actually, he has made quite clear statements, and in Kremlin, I would say they've already heard them. Yeah, I mean, because that he called even before he was elected that Russia is an enemy, Putin is an enemy, it's an aggression, it's a war, etc., etc. Just during his last meeting, visit to Brussels, he has already discussed with the Secretary of NATO, yes, Stoltenberg, about the ways to stop the aggression, and he again underlined that Russia is an aggressor, and the West, common West, I would say, should assist Ukraine to finish this war and to put pressure, to increase, I would say, even pressure, sanctions, etc. on Russia. So another case, I would say, quite different thing is Donald Trump, who, as you know, during 2 years and a half of his presidency hasn't changed his idea and opinion concerning Russia, right? And concerning President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, as well. And he still wants, I would say, to make both ends meet, or something like that. I mean, just to restart again, as other presidents try, U.S.-Russia relationships. And of course, Ukrainian issue in commerce, I would say, is the main obstacle for him. That's why he's going to meet with Vladimir Putin. And if we go back 1 year ago, right, their first official meeting, I would say, in Helsinki, in Finland, it was mentioned that Russia's president gave him, Donald Trump, some variants to solve the conflict. Of course, they are pro-Russian, of course, and in Russia's interests, right? And I bet, I would say, I can say, I bet they will discuss these variants again. Moreover, the time for Vladimir Putin and for Donald Trump now is much better than a year ago. As you know, Donald Trump last year, after that meeting, invited Vladimir Putin for an official even meeting, but it was cancelled just because of Mueller investigation. That's the main, I would say, was the main already obstacle for negotiations, for closer ties between two presidents. And for us, of course, now the situation, I would say, is worse than a year ago, just because of that, because as you know, Donald Trump now is free vice versa. It's already concerns an official part, but I guess should discuss it later. But let's finish.
We will come back to it later. I would like us to stay on the topic of the Donbas conflict zone. Since the newly elected President Volodymyr Zelenskyi actually took office, the ceasefire violations from the Russian hybrid forces side strengthened.
Yeah.
Why do you think that this is happening? Because we have a new president and he is not fully into office, he is not that experienced, and Russia felt like Ukraine is getting weaker and it would be a good opportunity to flex its muscles once again?
Exactly. Quite agree with you. It's one thing. Another thing, I would say it's already a preparation, yeah?
For what?
For the meeting of Donald Trump
So this is
with
a
Zelensky.
provocation?
It's a preparation for further meeting, which anyway will take place with Zelensky. It's already, I would say, an invitation, hello, from Kremlin to new president-elect, welcome to reality, yes. And to weaken his positions as well.
On the
probably.
international arena, you mean?
In international arena, besides we are having campaign, right, election campaign, it also plays an important role. And if to take into account, okay, all 5 years of this war, every time there was going a meeting on Minsk, in Minsk or Normand format, right? Every time before any special and important meeting on international platform where Ukrainian issue was going to be discussed, we had such like situation in Donbas, right? And so nothing new, I would say. President.
Except for the president.
For our president, of course, it will, I guess, help him to understand which position he is occupying now and the difference. And I would say, I can only say I sympathize with him, but it was his choice. And of course, this meeting will be very important for Ukraine. But again, I would underline not only concerning negotiations concerning conflict in Donbas. It's not the first time, it's not the last time. Of course, it's important for President Zelensky to establish good relationships with Donald Trump, for this chemistry to appear, which is very important for Donald Trump, as he stated it many times, and for further development. But it is connected, I would say, much more with unofficial part of this visit and the reasons why such a visit will take place.
And we're coming to the unofficial part of the meeting. It has been stated that there is an enemy of Donald Trump in the closest circle of Volodymyr Zelenskyi. And it has been stated also that there is one last name that has been named. Whose last name is it?
Leshchenko, you mean? Or whose enemy, you know, in which list? Donald Trump's enemy number one now is Joe Biden, of course.
No. In the closest circle of Volodymyr Zelensky.
Well, it was stated, you mean Rudolph Giuliani, right? His lawyer, but who can afford himself to make such statements? But I think it's like the name was Leshchenko, MP, right, who gave information during election campaign in 2016, which led to, you know, some problems in Donald Trump's headquarters. I mean, Paul Manafort, who worked for a long time on our fourth president, let it be like this, I mean, Yanukovych, and it cost him some support, of course, during elections. And now, for Donald Trump, is the best way, again, elections, again, not only in Ukraine, again, we are taking part in U.S. elections, and let's put it in this way: if with the end of investigation, I mean Mueller's investigation, the so-called Kremlin Gate is about to be over, I'm not sure whether it is over, but at least this official part, right? No obstruction of justice, etc., as Donald Trump stated many times, and Democrats said vice versa. And now he is going to converse this Kremlin Gate, I would say, to Kiev Gate. And if Donald Trump was suspected to cooperate, right, with Kremlin, with Russia during his election campaign, that he was given some compromise on Hillary Clinton. Now, vice versa, he's trying to convince American citizens that it was about Kiev who interfered in presidential elections 2016. And here, of course, he will pressure, I mean, this unofficial part will be concerned with the pressure of Donald Trump on President Zelensky to give some interesting, I would say, information necessary for him to disgrace, I would say, just to give some information on his adversary Joe Biden, who is taking the lead in Democratic camp. Yes, and we can say already the chances are really high that he will be the opponent of Donald Trump on 2020 elections.
Okay, but that would put President Volodymyr Zelenskyi in a very tough position, because this is the first meeting and he is aiming at securing friendly and cooperative relations with such an important partner as the US. And if he's pressured into giving out, as you have said, some interesting information about one of his party members, what would you do in such a situation?
You know, it's just the case when I wouldn't like to be.
Is it personal or is it politics?
At his place, it's both. You know, because the stakes are really high. We should take into account that the main asset of Ukraine in U.S.-Ukraine relationships during these 5 years is the bipartisan support of Ukraine in American Congress, right? And when even 2 years ago Donald Trump was inclined to make some steps towards negotiations and to better somehow relationships with President Putin. As you know, in Congress there was special bill concerning sanctions, and actually some points of this bill concerned that Donald Trump cannot make such decisions concerning relationships with Russia without if Congress does not agrees, right? And
without Congress's approval.
Yeah, and now the situation for Volodymyr Zelensky, we should understand the most important thing, yes, and the most, I would say, tragic point of this meeting for Zelensky and for Ukraine as a whole, because at stake, as I said, if he agrees to cooperate with Donald Trump and somehow to give this information he is asked about, then we may lose the support of Democrats, because definitely it will influence the campaign and Joe Biden's image, etc., etc. You know, it concerns his son, that he was appointed on gas company in Ukraine, Burisma, etc., etc. I guess everybody knows this story, but
if Zelensky denies,
it's no. Let me finish. Okay, if he agrees, yes. So what we are risking? So first of all, support of Democrat. Then it's one thing. In, I would say, close perspective. In further perspective, if still Joe Biden wins, which I think from today is quite possible, I would say even more. if we take into account opinion polls in US latest, then for the next 4 years, or even 5, take into account one, we are going, I would say, we are going to face a president of US who was disgraced or somehow by Ukrainian president, and the relationships between Zelensky and Joe Biden, I guess, would suffer from it, definitely. And Ukraine as a whole, it may reflect on support for Ukraine, etc., etc. So, on another hand, if he disagrees, which he has somehow, I would say, already mentioned, because, you know, Giuliani cancelled his visit, because the official statement was that, and I guess it was the rightest one, I mean, administration of Zelensky, that he doesn't want to participate in internal affairs, and it's definitely internal affairs of US and politics. But still, one thing is Rudolph Giuliani, another thing, you are face-to-face to President Donald Trump.
The President of the US, right.
Yeah, and if he disagrees, of course, it will influence, taking into account the character of Donald Trump, which everybody knows already, yes, that he always tries to get what he wants. So, of course, it may influence, and we may lose somehow, at least, our support in Republican Party as well. So that's I can't even, you know, find a solution for the best solution now. He will definitely have to make a very difficult choice. But you know, sometimes good things, occasions, unexpected for Ukraine occurs. We shall see what's gonna happen during these 2 months, I guess 2 months, which are left before the meeting.
Before the meeting. Well, thank you so much for such an interesting conversation. We all hope that Volodymyr Zelenskyi will come up with a decision that would work the best for Ukraine.
I hope so too.
Thanks again. That was Maksym Iali. He's an expert on international relations and senior research fellow at the Institute of World History of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned with UATV for more.